The market was loud and crowded, but no one looked at her. Lissa walked slowly through the dust, her robe faded and her eyes hollow. Everyone knew who she was, the childless one, the barren one, the useless female who could never give life. Other alien women sold herbs, fabrics, and strange fruits. They laughed, traded, and carried babies on their backs or hugged them in their arms. Lissa carried nothing, only silence and shame. She had once dreamed of having a child too, a small one to call her mother. But the tests had shown the truth: no eggs, no spark, no hope. Her people believed a woman who could not birth was cursed. So they marked her with a tattoo on her back, a red line with a sharp slash. It told everyone she was broken. No man would choose her. No adoption center would trust her. Even children avoided her shadow, as if she carried a disease. Still, she came to the market every few days. She collected leftover food, broken fruits, and water spilled near the stalls. The vendors never stopped her. But they never spoke to her either. She had accepted the silence until today. That day, something was different. As she walked past the old fabric tent, she heard a sound, a small whimper, thin and tired. Like a kitten lost in the cold, she turned slowly and looked under the pile of discarded baskets. There, in the corner, lay a tiny alien girl, no more than 3 or 4 cycles old. She had pale purple skin, large eyes full of tears, and bruises on her arms. Lissa froze, her heart pounding. No one else seemed to notice the child. She stepped closer, crouched down, and whispered gently, "Are you hurt?" The child blinked at her, her lips trembling. Lissa reached out a hand, but before she could touch the girl, a sharp voice barked from behind. "Step away from her," a guard said, walking over in his red armor. Others turned to look now, whispering among themselves, "She's touching the child." One merchant said, "She's cursed. Get her away from that girl." Another hissed. The guard pushed Lissa aside roughly, and she stumbled, landing hard on the ground. She was just helping. Someone said calmly. The voice didn't belong to any alien. It was deep, smooth, and carried this strange accent of Earth. A human. Lissa looked up and saw him. He stood tall, wearing a simple brown coat and boots covered in travel dust. His hair was dark, his eyes steady, and his hands gentle as he picked up the child. The alien crowd fell silent, confused and cautious. Humans didn't usually interfere, especially not for someone like Lissa. The man wrapped the girl in a warm cloth and looked at Lissa. "Were you trying to help her?" he asked. Lissa nodded slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, but they stopped me." He looked at the guard and said, "She did nothing wrong." The guard grunted. Annoyed but unwilling to argue with an off-worlder, he walked away, shaking his head. The man turned to Lissa again, his voice kind. "Do you have a place to go?" She blinked, confused by his question. I have a shelter near the waste zone." "Then let's take her there," he said. "She shouldn't be alone. And you look like someone who can hold a child right." Lissa wanted to say no, to walk away like always. But something inside her shifted when she saw the little girl's eyes. The child wasn't afraid of her. She reached out her small hand, fingers curling around Lissa's. A spark of warmth touched Lissa's chest. It wasn't magic, but it felt close. The human introduced himself as Jonah. He had come from Earth as a volunteer to help forgotten children across the colonies. He didn't flinch at Lissa's mark, didn't ask about her past. He only cared about the child's safety, and strangely, about Lissa's heart. As they walked through the dusty road together, the wind picked up. Jonah carried the child in one arm and offered Lissa his coat. She hesitated, but accepted it quietly. The warmth surprised her, not just from the cloth, but from being seen. Being trusted, even just for a moment. She looked down at the child, who was already asleep. Curled against Jonah's chest, Then the girl opened one eye, reached out, and touched Lissa's hand again. Lissa gasped softly. The child smiled, just a little. And in that fragile smile, something old and broken inside, Lissa began to heal. She didn't know what would come next, but this was not just a moment. It was the start of something powerful, something called hope. The fire crackled softly in the dark, sending sparks into the cold air. Lissa sat across from the human man, her hands close to the flames. The little alien girl lay between them, wrapped in Jonah's brown coat, breathing slowly. The stars above were bright, but the desert around them was silent. It was the first time in years Lissa had sat with another person and not felt judged. Jonah had set up the small camp just outside the city walls. He worked quietly, gathering sticks, boiling water, and offering Lissa a piece of bread. She hesitated, unsure whether to accept it. He simply smiled and said, "You need it more than I do." His voice was warm, not demanding, not pitying, just kind. She took the bread, her fingers brushing his, and whispered, "Thank you." The child, now awake again, looked between them with wide eyes. Lissa didn't know what to say or do. She had never held a child, never rocked one to sleep, never fed a baby. But something inside her felt natural, like her hands already knew. "She trusts you," Jonah said softly. Watching Lissa closely, Lissa glanced down at the girl's tiny fingers curled around her wrist. "Why would she trust me?" Lissa asked, her voice trembling. "I'm nothing. I'm marked." Jonah tilted his head. "Marked? You mean you're back?" She didn't answer, but turned slightly, letting the firelight show the red slash on her skin. His eyes didn't widen in shock, nor did he pull away. Instead, he said, "That mark only tells me how blind your people are." Lissa blinked, unsure how to respond. No one had ever said that to her before. She was left behind, wasn't she? Jonah continued, looking at the child. Lissa nodded. "Yes, near the fabric tent, like trash." Jonah sighed and gently touched the child's hair. "Children like her. I've seen many, thrown away, born from unapproved pairings, or simply unwanted." Lissa looked up, confused. "Why do you care?" He smiled at her. "Because someone once cared for me when I was that child." A long silence followed, broken only by the wind and crackling wood. Lissa stared into the fire, memories haunting her, the night she was told she could never bear life. The whispers, the stares, the cold nights with no one to speak to. "I went to the adoption center once," she said suddenly. "They laughed when they scanned my back. Said I didn't have the mother code." Jonah's brows furrowed. "The what?" "It's a trait, a chemical bond marker they look for," she explained slowly. "If you don't have it, they say you can't connect with a child." Jonah scoffed softly. "And yet, that little girl hasn't let go of your hand since she woke up." Lissa looked down, and he was right. The girl as she now decided to call her, was still clutching her fingers. Her eyes were closed again, and her breathing was calm. Like she felt safe. Like Lissa was enough. "You gave her a name?" Jonah said, noticing Lissa's lips whispering the name Lissa nodded shyly. "It means soft star in my language." "That's beautiful," he said, smiling, fitting. "Too, she's small, but bright." A strange silence filled Lissa's heart. Not empty, but full of warmth. She had no idea what to do next. Where could she go? What could she offer this child? But Jonah didn't seem worried. "You can come with me," he offered gently. "I'm headed to the border colony, where Earth systems help place abandoned children." Lissa looked at him in disbelief. They would accept her. He nodded. "Yes. And you, Tife, you want to stay by her side." Her heart skipped. "But I'm not her mother." "I'm not anything. You are something," he said, voice firm. "You're the one she reached for, the one who didn't walk away." She didn't know why, but his words made her eyes sting with tears. She turned away quickly, wiping them before they fell. Ree stirred and whispered something in her sleep soft. Broken word. Mama, Lissa, froze, her breath caught in her throat. Did the child just call her that? Jonah looked stunned, but a smile slowly grew on his face. She said it, didn't she? He whispered. Lissa nodded slowly, too shocked to speak. The word echoed in her ears like music she thought she'd never hear. She doesn't care about marks or codes, Jonah said gently. She cares about who stays when she cries. Lissa looked down at Ree again, her hand now stroking the girl's cheek without even thinking. A feeling bloomed inside her chest, something she had buried for so long. Hope, longing, love, all tangled together. But before she could speak, a distant sound interrupted the moment. Metal boots, walking in the sand. A flicker of red lights in the dark. Jonah stood quickly, placing a protective hand over Ree. They're coming, he said. Eyes alert. Who? Lissa whispered. Guild patrols. He replied. They want the child back, but not for kind reasons. Lissa's eyes widened. What do we do? Jonah looked at her firmly. We run. He picked up the child and reached out his hand toward. Lissa, come with me, he said. Let's save her together. Lissa didn't hesitate this time. She took his hand, and they disappeared. Into the shadows, the wind behind them carried the fire's last flame, and the name Mama stayed warm in Lissa's heart. The night was long and cold, but Lissa didn't feel it anymore. Her legs were tired, her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. She ran beside Jonah, holding his coat tight as he carried the child behind them. Faint red lights flickered patrol. Drones scanning the desert paths. Each pulse of red meant danger. If they were caught, Ree would be taken, and Lissa. She didn't even want to think what they'd do to her. They stopped near a rock formation just before sunrise. The sky turned purple as stars faded into pale clouds. Jonah gently laid Ree down on a flat stone, wrapping her in the last of his travel blanket. Lissa knelt beside them, catching her breath. Her eyes were locked on the girl's face, watching her chest rise and fall. She's safe, Jonah whispered, placing a hand on Lissa's shoulder. But Lissa shook her head slowly. No, she's not safe. Not if they find out she's bonded with me. Jonah looked confused. Bonded? But you're not officially listed, right? Lissa lowered her eyes. That's the problem. I'm marked twins. They scan me. They'll say I can't form a real bond. Jonah sat down beside her, watching her closely. You keep saying that, he said softly. Tell me what this mark means, really? Lissa pulled her robe aside and turned her back toward him. There, just below her neck, was the red mark, two sharp lines crossing over an empty circle. It's a government brand, she said, her voice bitter. It means I was tested and found unfit to breed. Jonah blinked, then asked gently, is it physical or just what they believe? Lissa gave a weak laugh. It's both and neither. Some women with the mark later gave birth after escaping the system. Others never did, but raised children anyway. But once the mark is there, no one will give you a chance. Jonah looked at her carefully. And what do you believe? Lissa went quiet, her voice barely a whisper. I believe I was never given the chance to try. She looked at Ree, who stirred in her sleep and curled toward Lissa's warmth. The child's small hand reached out, as if searching for her in her dreams. Lissa moved closer and let Ree hold her finger again. The touch sent a deep shiver through her, but not a fear of connection. She keeps doing that, Lissa said, voice shaking. She holds on to me like I belong to her. Maybe you do, Jonah replied softly. Suddenly, a beep echoed through the air. Jonah's portable scanner lit up. Someone was broadcasting a citywide alert. He glanced at the message and frowned. They've marked Ree as stolen property, he said, voice tense. She's not even listed as a person, just an asset. Lissa's stomach twisted. They'll take her and throw her into a lab or a slave ring. Jonah nodded grimly. Unless we do something first. He opened his pack and pulled out a data tablet. I have a contact near the outer colony border. He helps people like re-disappear from records. Lissa looked unsure. Disappear. I mean re-registered, Jonah clarified. New ID, new place to live, away from the system. But what about me? Lissa asked. I'm not even allowed near children officially. Jonah's eyes narrowed thoughtfully, then smiled. Slightly, then we give them something they can't ignore. Lissa tilted her head. What do you mean? He showed her a small medical scanner, the kind used for emergency DNA reads. We prove something they can't fake, a real emotional bond. Lissa stared at the device, afraid it won't work. They'll see my mark, reject me again. Jonah reached out and gently touched her hand. No machine can fake what that little girl feels for you, he said. Let's try, with trembling fingers. Lissa held Ree's small hand and pressed the sensor between them. The scanner blinked. Red for a moment, then glowed green. Jonah's eyes widened. What does that mean? Lissa whispered. He turned the screen to show her. The display read, bond level, primary match confirmed, caregiver link established. Lissa's breath caught. That's impossible. It's real. Jonah said, smiling. She's already bonded with you. Even if the system marked you wrong, tears welled in Lissa's eyes for the first time. A machine had agreed with what her heart already knew. She sees me as her mother, she whispered. Jonah nodded. She chose you, Lissa, not because of codes, but because of how you held her when no one else would. But their joy was short-lived. A sudden humming sound filled the air drones. 3 flying patrol bots hovered over the rocks, red beams scanning the area. Jonah grabbed the scanner and tablet, pulling Lissa to her feet. They found us, he said. We have to move now. Lissa scooped Ree up in her arms, the child. Stirring awake with a sleepy whimper, Jonah led them into a narrow cave. Just as the patrol drones fired warning shots into the ground behind them, dust rained down as Lissa shielded Ree's head with her arm. Inside the cave, the light dimmed, but their hope didn't fade. Lissa whispered to Ree, I won't let them take you ever. Jonah turned on a small torch, leading them deeper inside. We'll find a way. He promised, we'll reach the border. I'll find your names. And you'll never be alone again. Lissa didn't answer. But her arms tightened around Ree. She knew the fight wasn't over. But for the first time in her life, she had something worth fighting for. The cave was cold, narrow, and filled with dust, but to Lissa, it felt like safety. She held Ree close. The child's head resting on her shoulder, Jonah walked ahead, his torch casting long shadows on the stone walls. Behind them, the faint sound of buzzing drones echoed like distant thunder. They'll search these tunnels, Jonah whispered. But we have a head start. Lissa nodded silently, her heart still pounding. Her arms were tired, but she wouldn't let go of the child. Not now, not ever. As they moved deeper, Jonah stopped near a broken grate. This leads to the old maintenance shaft, he said, pulling it open. It's tight, but it connects to the outer ridge. Lissa looked at the small opening and then at Ree. She's small enough, she said, but will we all fit? Jonah nodded. We'll manage, we have to. He climbed in first, then reached for Ree. The child clung to Lissa, whimpering softly. It's okay, Lissa whispered, kissing her forehead. He'll catch you, I promise. Carefully. She passed Ree into Jonah's arms, then crawled in behind them. The shaft was dark and cramped, filled with metal pipes and dripping water. Lissa's knees scraped against the floor. But she didn't stop. She kept her eyes on Jonah's back and the little legs of the child dangling. From his side, every sound made her flinch. A crack, a splash, a faraway click. They don't care about her, do they? she asked suddenly. Jonah turned his head slightly. The guild? She nodded. They just want control, not the child's life. Jonah sighed. To them, she's a tool. Maybe a future product, maybe a test subject, but never a person. Lissa's hands clenched. But she is, she said. She's real. She feels. She loves. I know, Jonah said quietly. That's why we'll protect her. After a long crawl, they emerged into a vent near the ridge. The outside air hit them fast, cold, sharp, but fresh. They stepped onto the rough slope that looked down into a valley of blinking lights. That's the border colony, Jonah said, pointing. If we reach it, we can contact my friend, Lissa. Stared at the place in the distance, so close, yet surrounded by danger. Between them and safety was open ground, patrolled by scouts and flying bots. How do we cross? She asked, voice low. Jonah smiled slightly by being invisible. He opened his pack again and pulled out a set of cloth wraps gray and dust-colored. These will help us blend into the rocks, and this, he added, showing a small jammer. Device will block our heat signal for a few minutes at a time. They wrapped themselves quickly. Hiding Rhee inside a soft sling strapped to Lissa's chest, the child slept deeply. Unaware of the danger around her, stay low, Jonah whispered, and move when I move. They began the slow journey down the ridge, one step at a time. Every few meters, Jonah would drop and signal Lissa to wait. A patrol bot hovered overhead, scanning the ground for movement. The jammer in Jonah's hand blinked green, then red. Wait, he mouthed, holding his breath. Lissa crouched behind a jagged rock, her body shaking not from fear, but from the pressure of protecting something so fragile. She looked down at Rhee's face, soft and peaceful, and whispered, "Don't wake up, little one, not yet." Finally, the bot moved on, and Jonah signaled again. They moved fast now, the colony lights growing closer, but just as they reached the final stretch, a sound pierced the air. A sharp alarm. The jammer had failed. Red lights exploded behind them, and a search drone shot down from the cliffs. Run! Jonah shouted, grabbing Lissa's hand. They sprinted. Stumbling through the rocky ground, a blast hit the earth behind them, sending dust into the air. Lissa shielded Rhee, coughing. Keep going. A metal gate came into view, the border checkpoint. Half open, guarded by 2 off-world sentries. Jonah waved a small ID chip and shouted, "Emergency refugee pass. Let us through." The guards hesitated as the drone zipped closer, weapons glowing. Now, Jonah roared, and the gates opened just enough. They dove through the gap, rolling into the safety zone behind them. The drone screeched, but did not fire. The human territory rules stopped it. Lissa lay on the ground, gasping for air. Rhee opened her eyes and whimpered, and Lissa hugged her tight. "It's okay. We're here," she whispered, her tears falling into the child's hair. Jonah stood above them, bruised and out of breath. "You did it," he said, smiling. "You got her here." Lissa looked up, her lips trembling. "We did it." A medical team ran over, scanning them quickly. One nurse blinked at the child and asked, "Is this your daughter?" Lissa paused, heart racing. She looked at Jonah, then at Rhee, who touched her cheek with a tiny hand. "Yes," Lissa said softly. "She is," and in that moment, no mark, no law, no mistake could deny the truth. The child had chosen, and Lissa had answered. Lissa sat on the soft clinic bed, still trembling from the chase. Her arms never let go of Rhee, who now lay sleeping again, curled like a tiny seed of peace. Jonah stood near the wall, speaking with the human medtech team. They spoke in low voices, but Lissa caught a few words. Scan, guardian claim. Emergency shelter. The border clinic was quiet, dimly lit and warm. It felt like another world compared to the cold tunnels and sharp rocks they had just escaped. Lissa looked down at Rhee's face, brushed a bit of dust from her cheek. The girl's small fingers were wrapped tightly around Lissa's robe, as if she never wanted to let go again. A nurse approached gently. Holding a small scanning device, "May I check the child's vitals?" she asked, voice kind. Lissa hesitated, then nodded slowly. The device gave off a soft hum and blinked green. "She's strong," the nurse smiled, "and safe now." Then came the harder question. The nurse sat down beside her and said, "Will need to record the guardian's name." Lissa froze, her heart pounding. She whispered, "I'm not allowed." Jonah stepped forward quickly. "She is her guardian," he said firmly. "She brought her here. She protected her." The nurse looked uncertain, but the mark her people declared her unfit. Jonah didn't flinch. "Their rules don't apply here." The nurse looked at Lissa again. "Do you love the child?" Lissa didn't need to think. "Yes," she said with trembling lips. "More than anything, will you keep her safe? Feed her, teach her." "I already do," Lissa replied. "I will, forever." The nurse gave a small nod, then turned to Jonah. "If we scan for bond level verification and it matches, she'll be approved under Earth's territory law." Jonah looked at Lissa, his eyes soft. "Are you ready?" Lissa took a deep breath and nodded. She gently pressed her wrist against Ree's. The scanner between them, the device hummed for several seconds. Then flashed a soft blue light. "Bond status. Confirmed primary emotional link detected tears." Filled Lissa's eyes, but this time they were not from fear. The nurse smiled gently. "Congratulations. She's yours." Lissa gasped, the words echoing in her ears like music. She looked at Jonah, who nodded proudly. "I told you, didn't?" He said no test could deny what's real. That evening, they were moved to a temporary family shelter inside the colony. It was a small room with a soft bed, a sink, and a little table. Lissa sat with Ree on her lap, combing the child's tangled hair with a brush Jonah had found. The girl giggled and leaned into her touch. "Does it hurt?" Lissa asked gently. Ree shook her head. "No, Mama." Lissa froze, the brush still in her hand. She had heard the word before, once, whispered in sleep, but this time, the child said it clearly, awake, smiling. She swallowed hard, her voice cracking. "Say it again." Ree grinned. "Mama," Lissa broke, tears running freely down her cheeks. She pulled Ree into her arms and held her tight. "You can call me that," she whispered. "You can call me that forever." Jonah watched quietly from the doorway. His heart swelled as he saw the once broken alien woman transform into something whole. He knew the bond was more than paperwork. More than biology was soul deep later that night. As Ree slept curled under a soft blanket, Lissa sat beside Jonah, both holding cups of warm broth. "She's everything I never thought I'd have," Lissa said softly. "And you're?" "Everything she needed," Jonah replied. Lissa looked at him. "Why did you help me?" "You didn't even know me." Jonah smiled faintly. "Because someone once saved me when I was lost, when I was angry and alone." He took a sip, then added, "And maybe because I believe no one is truly broken." Lissa lowered her gaze. "My people didn't believe that." Jonah leaned forward slightly. "But she does, and I do." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe I can believe it too." Suddenly, an alert rang outside, soft but urgent. A message flashed across the room screen. Guild agents reported near the Southern Ridge families advised to remain indoors. Lissa stiffened. "There." Still looking, Jonah stood quickly, locking the door and lowering the shades. "They can't take her now," he said. "You're legally her guardian. And we're in human protected space." "But if they try," Lissa whispered. "What? If they break the rules?" Jonah looked at her seriously. "Then we remind them what a mother will do for her child." Lissa stood, her hand resting on Ree's back protectively. "No one will take her from me," she said firmly. And something in her voice had changed. No longer scared, no longer unsure, she sounded like a mother, and if the guild came, they would find not a broken woman, but a bonded warrior, ready to fight for her child with everything she had. The morning light slipped through the shelter. Window, soft and golden. Lissa opened her eyes slowly. Finding Ree snuggled close, one tiny hand resting on her chest, she smiled, brushing the girl's hair gently. For the first time in years, she had slept without fear. No patrols, no cold ground, no hateful eyes. Just a bed, a roof, and the warm heartbeat of a child who called her mama. Jonah knocked gently and entered with a small bag of supplies. "Breakfast delivery," he said with a grin, holding out warm rolls and a bottle of juice. Lissa chuckled quietly. "You always find food," he shrugged. "It helps knowing the kitchen staff." They sat by the table while Ree nibbled on her roll and sang softly to herself. Her voice was full of joy, the kind of sound Lissa never imagined she would hear inside these walls. "How long can we stay here?" Lissa asked, her tone a little anxious. Jonah's smile faded slightly. "The shelter's limit is 10 days. Then they'll ask about permanent placement." Lissa nodded slowly, knowing what that meant. "Papers," she whispered. "Identification. Home address, job status." Jonah leaned forward. "I've spoken to a friend. A legal contact from Earth's child welfare system. She believes your bond with Ari is enough to grant you long-term custody." "But," Lissa whispered the mark. Jonah held up a finger. "Won't matter in this system. But they'll ask questions, especially about where you came from and what you plan to do next." Lissa's hands trembled. "What can I do, Jonah?" she asked, her voice cracking. "I've never had a job. I'm not educated. I don't even know how your world works." Jonah reached across the table and took her hand gently. "You gave a child safety, love, and warmth in a society that rejects that doesn't deserve to exist, but this one might just accept it." He added with a soft smile. That afternoon, Jonah guided her to the colony records office. The halls were clean, wide, and quiet, nothing like the chaos of her homeworld. Lissa clutched Ree's hand tightly as they waited in line. A tall woman in a blue coat waved them forward. "Name?" the officer asked, tapping a screen. "Lissa," she answered. "This is Ree." "My daughter." The woman glanced at the child, then at Jonah, then back to Lissa. "We'll need to scan for identity. Proof of bond and medical background." Lissa hesitated. "I have no ID. Do you have any former records?" Lissa shook her head. "Only the mark," she whispered. The officer frowned. "Show it, please." Lissa turned slowly, pulling aside her robe and showing the red slash on her back. The woman scanned it, and the screen blinked. Jonah stepped forward. "That mark has no standing here. She's already bonded with the child. Confirm it." The officer tapped her screen again and scanned both Lissa and Ree. After a moment, a soft chime rang out. "Bond confirmed, emotional level, parental." The officer's eyebrows lifted. Well, she murmured. "That level of connection doesn't happen by chance." She printed 2 new cards and handed them over. "One for you, Lissa, registered as Ree's legal guardian in the colony system, and one for her, with her full name. You may choose her surname." Lissa stared at the small card in her hands, her name printed beside the word guardian. It felt unreal. She looked at Ree, who blinked up at her, and said, "Mama, can we go play now?" Lissa laughed, nodding, "Yes, we can." The next few days passed like a dream. Lissa learned how to clean rooms in the nearby hospital. Jonah helped her get the job. She woke early, worked hard, and returned every evening to Ree's suite. Smile and warm hugs. Ree began drawing pictures, stick figures of a tall woman with stars on her robe. Always standing beside a little girl, she showed them proudly to anyone who visited the shelter. This is me and Mama. Jonah visited often, bringing food, toys, and quiet encouragement. One night, while Ree slept, Lissa sat with him outside under the colony lights. I still don't feel like a mother, she whispered. Not completely. Jonah turned toward her. Then what do you feel like? She took a long breath, like someone pretending. Like the name doesn't truly belong to me yet. He looked her in the eye, voice gentle. That name belongs to anyone who stays, anyone who listens, anyone who chooses a child even when it's hard. She doesn't see you as pretending, he added. She sees you as hers. The next morning brought unexpected news. A government worker arrived at the shelter with a message. You've been called to the Council of Family Review. She said it's a standard step before granting permanent housing and status. Lissa's blood turned cold. Jonah placed a hand on her back. We'll go together. Ree clung to her leg. Sensing something was wrong, they can't take her away, can they? Lissa whispered, not if we show them the truth, Jonah said. And the truth is you're already her mother. The day of the hearing came quickly, as Lissa held Ree in her lap inside the council chamber. She could feel the eyes of a dozen officials on her. They would ask questions, check records, and study their every word. But Lissa had survived rejection, shame, hunger, and fear. And now, she had something worth standing up for. She was ready. Not just to fight, but to prove once and for all what it truly meant to be a mother. Asterisk, the Council of Family Review chamber was colder than Lissa expected. The walls were smooth and gray, lined with glowing panels that tracked identity, bonds, and biological data. 12 officials sat behind a long desk, each wearing silver bands of authority. Some had kind faces, others looked stern. Lissa stood in the center, holding Ree tightly in her arms. Jonah stood just behind them, silent but strong. A woman in the center tapped a screen, her voice calm. You are Lissa, from Sector 9 Carol, marked by your home government as non-breeder. Is this correct? Lissa nodded slowly. Yes, and you have claimed guardianship over this child, Ree. Yes, she replied, voice trembling but clear. One of the male officials leaned forward. You understand that emotional bond alone is not always enough. Lissa clutched Ree tighter. Then, let me show you what is. The councilwoman raised her brow. Go on. Lissa knelt and placed Ree gently on the floor. The child blinked, looked around the big room, and held tightly onto Lissa's robe. I found her in the market, left like trash, Lissa said, her voice steadying. She was dirty, hungry, scared. No one would help, not even your patrols only, this man. She gestured toward Jonah. But it was Ree who reached out to me, not him. Jonah spoke now, stepping forward. I witnessed the bond form. I have the data. Scans her system registered Lissa as her primary caregiver within 1 day. An older councilman waved his hand, and yet, the mark remains. That is not our concern. The councilwoman interrupted, looking directly at Lissa. We are not here to judge your past, she said, but to understand your present, your future. Lissa's breath caught, her mind flooded with memories. The nights she cried alone, the hands that pushed her away, the cold silence of being told she was nothing. But now Ree's hand was in hers, warm, real. Choosing her, she stood tall. Lifting the child into her arms again, she calls me Mama, Lissa said quietly. Not because someone told her to, she continued. Not because I fed her or gave her shelter, but because I held her when she cried. The chamber grew silent. One of the younger members leaned toward the councilwoman, whispering something. The woman nodded, then stood, walking down from the raised bench. She approached Lissa slowly, her eyes scanning both mother and child. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a small silver device. This is a legal override tool, she said, holding it up. With it, we may remove genetic-based restrictions placed by other governments. Lissa's eyes widened, her lips parting in disbelief. The woman stepped behind her and gently brushed aside her robe. The red slash mark still sat on her back, ugly and cold. The device buzzed softly as she passed it over the skin. A flash of blue light burst for a second, then faded. The councilwoman stepped forward again, speaking loud enough for all to hear. Lissa of Earth Colony 9, your mark is no longer recognized. You are no longer labeled non-breeder in our records. You are now, officially and fully. Mother Therese, Lissa gasped, her knees almost giving out. Jonah rushed forward and steadied her. Tears poured freely from her eyes. And even Jonah's own eyes glistened. Reclapped her little hands. Mama, Mama. The chamber, once cold and strict, filled with soft smiles, nods, and even quiet applause. The woman returned to her seat and tapped her panel. Prepare housing assignment and schooling benefits, she said. She will need a home. Ours. Later, outside the government hall, Lissa stood in the bright sunlight. She looked up at the sky, breathing in the warm air. Jonah stood beside her, holding the new ID cards. You did it, he said softly. Lissa looked at him, her voice almost a whisper. No, we did it. Ree ran in circles, laughing as she chased a butterfly near the trees. She wore a new little jacket, one the council had gifted as part of her official welcome. Lissa watched, her heart full. I never thought I'd be anything, she said to Jonah. No home, no future, no child. Jonah smiled. And now? Lissa smiled back. Now I am a mother. They walked down the path together. It's no longer fugitives, no longer hiding. A human, an alien woman once marked as broken, and a child who brought them both together. Families are not always born. Sometimes they are found in pain, shaped in struggle, and sealed by choice. And on that day, in a world that once saw her as worthless, Lissa walked freely, proudly, not as a woman with a mark, but as a mother with love in her arms and a child calling her home.